Hi, I'm Caleb, and we're back, baby! Sort of. I'm technically done with the engines, and while I have gotten a number of requests to model characters like Donald, Douglas, Oliver, etc., listen, I would love to do them, but they don't appear in my last project.
Run that back.
My last project.
What?
Okay, I've mentioned before in this series that I've only been making characters specifically for one project, and yes, it is intended to be my last. Basically, in all of my channel's run, it has been my dream to make a movie. I'm not making a movie.
It's not a movie. It's an intimate get-together.
More on this later, but for now, let's get down to business. I love Annie and Clarabel. I think they're a staple of the universe, and you feel their absence when they're not there in the show. Bachman's renditions were some of the earliest in the line, and it shows. I didn't want to just recreate their television series models. If you've been a regular on this channel, you'll know I've tried drilling out the eyes on the Bachman models before. Not with the cleanest results. As a design preference, I wanted all of the character eyes to be the same material, instead of the traditional 2D cutouts. I began work on these coaches around the same time I started Henry, with 3D files made by this wonderful person. Drilling the eye holes after printing sounded like a recipe for cracking the fragile resin, so I modified them in Maya. I also added interior detail. Nothing crazy since you are likely to never see it, but it gave it a little bit of structure. They were printed by the legendary train modeler, and I got to work. Unlike the engines, the carriages have quite a few nooks and crannies in their design. Subtle extrusions for the doors, things like that. I couldn't just sand a whole side at once, or else I'd lose the detail. A more precise approach was in order. Print lines and support scars made this a real chore. Dare I say, the most tedious of all. I used filler next, and sanded again. And again. And then I primed. And sanded. And filled. And then
Alright, I get it!
Okay, we're all done. They're primed. Time to paint them orange. Or was it? I actually painted them in a coat of dark brown first. This was to prevent leaks should I ever put lights inside of them. Black would have worked too, but brown felt more authentic since they are made of wood. As you can see, I was still using the Bachmann wheelbases. I wasn't a fan of the basic molding though, and started looking at 2 Hornby branchline coaches I had sitting around from an abandoned project. This felt much better to me. I considered removing the brake pipes, but they need them, so they stayed. Now it was time for orange. I used the same shade that was used on Henrietta in the show, Brilliant Orange by Volkswagen. Now they were starting to look the part, but they needed their names. What I ended up doing was creating decals for them and getting them custom printed onto waterslide transfers, courtesy of Bedlam Creations. I'd done water slides before, so this should be a cinch. Oh. I received a sheet with a lot of them, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to use all these. I'll have spares. I can give them to my friends, and no, I used nearly all of them trying to get them applied. Skill issue, I guess. They were extremely thin and curled on themselves easily, from which there seemed to be no recovery. I finally got it done though. Not without a paint chip, but that's forgivable, right? Right, guys? Yeah, we're moving on. I moved to the door handles next, and since I had those Hornby coach shells sitting right in front of me, I figured, why not? Only problem was these coach files were designed for longer handles which connect into 2 holes, one of which was still exposed. I couldn't just leave them open, so I decided I would mask around them, fill them, and do another orange coat. Simple, right? Before I even realized the danger, I stuck the masking tape right on the coach side. I'm sure you can guess what happened next. But you know what? That's fine. I could sand away that paint chip and I wouldn't have to do any masking. It did mean, however, It did mean, however, I would go blah, 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 blah. I might leave that in. So I sanded, filled, and painted again. When it came to the faces, I had an agenda. I wanted them to be more expressive, and eyebrows felt like a good place to start. I used vinyl cutouts for those and the mouths, which would allow me to interchange them as needed. I wanted them to have eyelashes and, like the eyeballs, have some dimension. I was intrigued by the idea of using real lashes, so one trip to Walmart later, I had some material. I cut the fake lashes into little sections and then stuck them behind the eyes. Cool, but Clarabel looks like she's had 7 espressos this morning. I sprayed some paper orange and made cutouts for the eyelids to go on top of the eyes. That's better. Annie was cross because her first role demanded it. It's a subtle difference, but the two coaches actually have different pupil sizes. I very much wanted to distinguish that these were 2 separate characters. The roofs were thickened in software to make them less fragile for printing, but that did mean I had to sand them down myself to make them thinner. But we got it done in the end. Terence was a relatively simple modification of the Bandai Tex toy. I didn't even repaint him. After removing the face to paint it and drill out the eye holes, I had to drill out some of the metal backing to make room for the eyeballs. My hand slipped, so I cut into his frame a little bit, but not to worry, a strip of plasticard would save the day. The toy's plastic caterpillar treads weren't bad, and I liked that they were functional, but I also wanted them to have a little bit more detail. I used caterpillars I found in a coffee shop. I found in a hobby shop instead, cut to size. Terence is kind of iconic for his lack of eyebrows.
Hello, Percy. Nice day for it, isn't it?
And when I wrote his scene in Down the Mine, I was envisioning him without eyebrows just to elevate the strangeness. But when it came time to model him, I couldn't resist. He got eyebrows. Sorry. He's a tractor that spends all of his time in the dirt, so I weathered him accordingly. And that's it. You might have noticed a crane in the last video, and while I'd have loved a print based off of the television series iteration, we don't have the budget. So I ordered an American crane. It's made by Tyco, and though I am not beholden to accuracy, it needed some modification to fit Sodor. I wasn't a fan of the sloped cab, so I cut it down and saved the window frames. Then I reattached them vertically and used plasticard to fill the gaps and applied filler to smooth it out. Since I shortened the cab, the winch was starting to look a little bare, so I took some spare pieces from a Vero windmill kit and plopped those on. I used a Rust-Oleum green to paint it. I wasn't planning to convert the cast to knuckle couplers, so it gained a buffer beam. After another coat of green, I went over the cables and winch with my new favorite thing, metallic black paint. I put that on everything, and glued on a 3D printed tail lamp. Some cut plastic became the windows, and after a weathering pass, I was ready to call it done. Oh, well, after a chimney. As for the rest of the train, once again, there was no budget for a works unit coach, so I used what I had. Anyway, those are some of my recent model projects, and there are more on the way. Back to our earlier discussion, unlike the Adventures of Thomas and Gordon, I want to make an extended project that is designed as one piece, instead of a compilation of shorts. Filming with model trains like this takes a lot of space, and I've graciously been able to use my friend's grandma's garage in my hometown. But life moves on, and I too moved away last year to pursue my career goals in film and animation. But I'm back for the summer, and I have one last shot at putting something together. I've been hesitant to announce anything because I don't want to make promises I can't keep. All I can say is I'm going to do the best with the time and resources I have at my disposal. So, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned.